Well, I'm going to do another episode of Childhood Thoughts that I really haven't done any of these in a while. And I'm thinking of doing one for Mr. Fred Rogers. And I'm going to talk about many episodes of the series. Most of the ones that actually inspired me, because if you don't know, uh, Mr. Rogers has inspired me to most of these um really is one of those inspirations where he really inspired me to do mo- um to do childhood thoughts, do a lot of most of my channel. And Without him I don't think I would do any of this for you all. He inspired me to do childhood thoughts, where uh you talk about these movies or something, your childhood, and you conquer it together with your fears that you had or these thoughts you had. And I got some of it from what Mr. Rogers would always talk about. Now let me talk about a few episodes that really inspired me. Now let me talk about the infamous violence episode. This is one that was made, I believe, in 1983 or 81, and he talks about how different violence there was. How he said, "Remember that time? If you remember that time when President Kennedy was shot, or when President Reagan was shot, or that time last year when um, John Lennon was shot with his was in New York." And he honestly he went to these children in the neighborhood and actually interviewed a lot of them and said how um, they feel about the violence, and whenever you get upset or something, always talk to someone you love. And that it's just this compared to stuff today, it's just um, the only thing there is close to it is Sesame Street. Now, another episode I want to talk about is death, and this is a one. He talks about how he had family dog named Mitzi that he had as a boy, and um, she got very old and died. And he talks about how my mother and father are aren't with me; they're up in heaven, and how he would always he says my older brother isn't with me. Like he'll just say how no matter what, if you lost your mommy or your daddy or your grandpa or your grandma or your aunt or your uncle, no matter what, they'll always be with you. They'll always what I love it was just that always was another one. Another episode he talks about, I think it's called Growing Up. He goes through his books as from a little boy to prom to his time uh, in the war. Um, I'm going to another talk about war. I'm going to another one where he talks about the violence in Vietnam. Yes, he did another violence one. And about the violence episode before, I want to say thank you to Mrs. Rogers. Thank you, ma'am, for showing that to us, because it was aired on 1981. It was never aired again, and I think it was his anniversary, his birthday, or the anniversary of his death. His wife posted it on, and I really like that. Another one, he talks about another one I really was the last episode where he'll just sit down and says, through these decades, I want to thank you. And it's just, I don't think we'll ever have another Mr. Rogers. I don't think we'll have something to that caliber anymore. In the reality, every day of this man. And I don't know, but I want to say thank you to Mr. Rogers. Thank you to my viewers, and thank you to just my family. He always showed us how to love who loves back. It's just thank you all. Thank you for watching.
You know, it happens so often. I walk down the street and someone 20 or 30 or 40 years old will come up to me and say, "You are Mr. Rogers, aren't you?" And then they tell me about growing up with the neighborhood and how they're passing on to the children they know what they found to be important in our television work. Like expressing their feelings through music and art and dance and sports and drama and computers and writing, and invariably we end our little time together with a hug. I'm just so proud of all of you who have grown up with us, and I know how tough it is some days to look with hope and confidence on the months and years ahead. But I would like to tell you what I often told you when you were much younger. I like you just the way you are. And what's more, I'm so grateful to you for helping the children in your life to know that you'll do everything you can to keep them safe and to help them express their feelings in ways that will bring healing in many different neighborhoods. It's such a good feeling to know that we're lifelong friends.